Hey y'all, this is video number 1 in my Technical Project Management Essentials series. This is a project management skills course, not a methodology course, so whether you're using Scrum or Kanban or SAFe or nothing in particular to organize your work, this course is for you. Here's something I've noticed after years of helping teams with delivery problems. Everyone is drowning. Every single team I work with is being asked to deliver more than they possibly have time to do. And when I dig into why things feel so chaotic, it usually comes down to 3 enemies. 3 patterns that make everything harder than it needs to be. The good news? Once you see these patterns, you can do something about them. Your requirements list isn't just a to-do list, it's actually a powerful tool, but only if you use it right. I'm using methodology-neutral language. Requirements, work items, iterations, not sprints, PBIs, or user stories. If you're doing Scrum, Kanban, SAFe, or no formal methodology at all, everything here applies. I'll provide a full terminology translation GUBby-wide at the end of the series, so you can map these concepts to whatever framework you're using. Cool? Cool, let's get into it. Let me paint a picture and you tell me if this sounds familiar. You've got 15 things in progress, but nothing's actually finishing. Priorities change every week. Sometimes every day. Someone important shows up with a hair-on-fire idea, and suddenly everything gets reshuffled. The team is constantly context switching, and you can barely see 1 iteration ahead, let alone 3 months. If that sounds like your world, you're not alone, and it's not because your team is bad at their jobs. When things feel chaotic, it's usually because you're fighting one or more of these 3 enemies. First, there's overload. Too many things happening at once. The team is spread across a dozen different priorities and nothing's getting done. Second, there's thrashing. Priorities that change constantly. Drop everything, now do this, wait no, do that instead. Every change has a cost, and that cost adds up fast. And third, there's what I call the void. You can only see 1 cycle ahead. There's no vision runway, so every new request feels like a crisis because you have no context for it. Overload is probably the most common problem I see, and it's sneaky because it feels productive. You look at your board and there are 15 things in the in progress column. Everybody's busy, and therefore it feels like work is happening, right? But here's the thing. When's the last time something actually got to done? Like really done? Not mostly done, or just needs testing done? When you try to do too much at once, everything takes forever. And I don't mean that as a figure of speech. There's actual math behind this. Here's the quickest intro to that math without, actually diving into the math. This is called Little's Law, and it's one of those things that seems obvious once you see it, but most teams completely ignore it. The more things you try to do at once, the longer each thing takes. If your throughput stays the same, but you double your work in progress, you've just doubled how long everything takes. This isn't opinion or methodology or some consultant's framework. It's math, it's physics, and it's unforgiving. So if you want to go faster, and I mean actually deliver things faster, the counterintuitive answer is to work on fewer things at once. I know. Tell that to your stakeholders. We'll get there. The second enemy is thrashing, and oh man, this one drives me crazy. Priorities change every week, sometimes every day. Drop everything. We need to do this now. Sound familiar? Every time you change the team's focus, you pay a tax. Context switching, ramp up time, half-finished work that sits and rots. That tax is invisible to the person demanding the change, but it's very real. And the worst part? You end up with half-finished work everywhere. 3 things started, nothing done, then the priority changes again, and those 3 things get abandoned for 3 new things. Here's the part that really hurts that lots of teams never really think about. All that half-finished work, until it ships, it's pretty much wasted effort. Here's the pattern I see over and over again, the squeaky wheel. There's always someone who yells loudest. Someone who thinks their thing should be the top priority. And honestly, they often contradict themselves every few weeks as they change their minds or think of some new hair-on-fire idea. The problem is that urgency and importance are not the same thing. Just because someone's yelling doesn't mean their thing is actually the most valuable thing to work on. And here's the trap. If you don't have a well-understood, prioritized list of work, the squeaky wheel always wins. Because in the absence of any data that says this person is wrong, or that their new priority is perhaps misguided, you have no defense, no evidence, no way to have a rational conversation about trade-offs. We'll talk about how to fix this in the next video. Spoiler, your requirements list is the tool. The third enemy is what I call the void. It's when you can barely see one cycle ahead. You might know what you're working on this week, maybe next week, but ask about next month, next quarter, blank stares. Without a vision runway, aka some sense of where you're trying to take the product over the next 3 to 6 months, without that runway, you're flying blind. And when you're flying blind, every new request feels like a crisis because you have no context for it. Is this important? Is it urgent? Does it fit with what we're trying to accomplish? Does it blow up our priorities? Who knows? We don't even know what we're trying to accomplish. You simply don't have any data. And that brings us to the evidence problem. If there isn't a document describing your vision, then there's no evidence that you have a vision. Trust isn't built by saying, "Trust me, I have a plan." Trust is built by showing your work. Busy, anxious executives don't take your word for it. They need to see something, and if you can't point to a prioritized list of work with clear rationale, you're just asking people to take you on faith. Let me show you the difference between having a managed requirements list and not having one. Without one, here's what happens. And over here, we'll see what changes when you have one. But first, let's look at the pain. Someone demands their thing get done, and you say no, and suddenly you're the problem. You're blocking progress, you're not a team player, a new idea shows up, and it goes straight to the team, disrupting whatever they were working on. No sizing, no trade-offs, just do this now. A stakeholder changes their mind, and the team gets whiplash. Again, for the third time this month, no list, and that begets frustration. But let's think about this scenario if you have that list. Someone demands their thing, and you say, "Absolutely, help me figure out what we bumped to make room for it." Suddenly, it's not you saying no. Instead, it's the situation revealing trade-offs. A new idea shows up, and it gets sized against existing work. Trade-offs become visible. Maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not, but at least it's a real conversation. A stakeholder changes their mind, and you can say, "Okay, here's what that costs us." Not as a threat, just as information. Now they can make an informed decision. See the difference? Same situations, completely different dynamics. Let's start thinking about how we can reshape all this. Let's try to reframe this as not just managing the piles of work you, quote, need to do. First off, your requirements list is not a to-do list. It's a negotiating instrument. It's evidence that you have a plan. It's how you defend your team against overload and thrashing. It's how you build the vision runway that keeps every new request from feeling like a crisis. The list isn't the work. The list is the conversation about the work made visible. Let me reiterate that because this is one of the biggest things I want you to remember from this whole course. The list isn't the work. It's the conversation about the work made visible. Now, I'm not going to pretend this is easy. These problems don't magically disappear. Reality, you can't do everything. There will always be more ideas than capacity. Reality, doing too much at once makes everything slow. Little's law doesn't care about your feelings. Reality, stakeholders will change their minds. That's not going to stop. Reality, someone will always yell louder than everyone else. There's always a squeaky wheel. A well-managed requirements list doesn't make these realities go away, but it does give you a way to navigate these realities without losing your mind or your credibility. All right, let's wrap up. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The three enemies are overload, thrashing, and the void. Too much work in progress, constant priority changes, and no vision runway. Most team chaos comes from one or more of these. Your requirements list is a shield, not just a to-do list. It's how you protect your team and have rational conversations about trade-offs. If you can't point to a prioritized list with clear rationale, you have no evidence that you have a vision. And without evidence, you won't get trust. And remember Little's law. To actually go faster, work on fewer things at once. Counterintuitive, but math doesn't lie. In the next video, we'll dig into how to actually use your requirements list as a negotiating tool. See you there.